We can only rely on the letter that is sent to this chamber on the justification for the extension. And let me summarize for the record, for the easy understanding of the public, the grounds. First, it is cited that the Abu Sayyaf group, the Bangsamoro Islamic Federation fighters, the Dawla Islamiyah, and other terrorist groups seek to promote global rebellion and continue to defy government by perpetrating hostile activities. That's the first ground. The second ground is that the Dawla, I hope I pronounce it correctly, the Dawla Islamiyah forces continue to pursue rebellion against the government by furthering the conduct of their radicalized activities and continuing to recruit new members in the Muslim communities. The third ground is the communist terrorist group has publicly declared its intention to seize political power. And the communist rule took advantage and likewise posed serious security concerns. Mr. President, the Executive Secretary is fully aware of the decision of the Supreme Court in the case of Lagman versus Medialdea. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And would the good Secretary agree with me that the Supreme Court in that case declared that in upholding Proclamation 216, ruled that the Constitution requires actual rebellion or actual public uprising and taking of arms against the government for the purpose of removing from the territory of the Philippines sovereignty over this territory. Would the good Secretary agree that that was the basic rationale for upholding the Proclamation 216?
Yes, sir.
We have enumerated the four grounds cited in the December 6, 2018 letter of the President. And there is nothing in these four grounds cited that shows actual uprising, actual rebellion, actual armed uprising. The revised penal code imposes as elements for the declaration of for punishing the act of rebellion the element that there must be an armed actual uprising for the purpose of removing sovereignty over certain territories of the Philippines. There is nothing in these four grounds that shows that there is an actual uprising for the purpose of removing from the allegiance of the Philippine government the territory of the Philippines or any part thereof. And I highlight the fact that what this Constitution requires, as ruled by the Supreme Court, is actual armed uprising for the purpose of removing from the allegiance of the government the territory of the Philippines or any part thereof.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the actual commission of acts are stated in pages 3 and 4 of the President's letter to the Secretary, to the Senate President, and to the Secretary, Speaker of the House.
We have enumerated those four grounds, and in fact, in the letter itself, it states that the said four grounds are, in general terms, describe the so-called continuing rebellion. it is our respectful submission that there is no ground, there is no actual armed uprising that is taking place in Mindanao to justify the extension of martial law. We must recall that Proclamation 216 was premised on the siege of Marawi. On the siege of Marawi. And in the briefing of the
Your Honor,
Department of National Defense,
Your Honor, the Minority Leader, will you please wind up?
Yes.
The limit is 3. We have extended the.
thank you very
Minority
much. Just this last question. I forgot already my question because of the interruption. I'm sorry, Mr. President.
I apologize for that, but we just have to follow the
But
rules.
in fact,
Senator Bamakino is donating his 3 minutes to you, so you may continue. You are 7 minutes already.
thank you very much.
Likewise, Senator Pangilinan, so you have 2 minutes more.
In the briefing yesterday, Mr. President, the Secretary of National Defense said the continued extension of martial law is a war, psychological war. It is not, there was nothing there that was stated that the continued implementation of martial law is to quell an armed uprising. The local terrorist group was classified by the armed forces as merely, and I quote this, merely a peace and order problem today. That was the briefing we got yesterday. We must remember that martial law is the highest form of self-preservation. It cannot be used, it cannot be the normal norm. It cannot be the norm. It is the highest form of self-preservation. Your statements were made yesterday that martial law makes governance more effective. Mr. President, these are very disturbing thoughts. These are very disturbing conclusions. We cannot make martial law as an instrument to make governance more effective. That was never the intention of our framers. There is therefore, Mr. President, in the letter of the President dated on December 6, 2017, and in any of the briefings, was there ever a citation that there is an actual armed uprising for the purpose of removing the sovereignty of the government or of the country over any part of our territory? It is for this reason, Mr. President, and that we believe that there is no factual basis as defined by the Supreme Court in the case involving no less than our resource speaker here, Secretary Mijaldea, when the Supreme Court very clearly outlined what the justification of martial law should be. For rebellion to exist, there must be a public uprising and taking up of arms against the government for the purpose of removing allegiance to the government and its laws. None exist at this point to justify the extension of martial law. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Majority Leader. The House Majority Leader. Madam Speaker.
Mr. President, Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Edsel Lagman to have the floor for his interpellation.
Any objections? Hearing none, motion is approved. Honorable Lagman is recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Senior Deputy Majority Leader. These questions are addressed to the Executive Secretary and other resource persons. What is being extended again is Proclamation number 216, which originally declared the imposition of martial law and the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus in Mindanao. Is that correct?
That is correct, Congressman.
Okay. But Proclamation number 216 has become functus officio and cannot be anymore legally and constitutionally extended because no less than President Duterte on October 27, 2017 announced the liberation of Marawi City from terrorists and their influence, and subsequently Martial Law Administrator Secretary Lorenzan announced the cessation of combat operations. Would you recall this?
Yes, sir. That is with respect to the main battle area in Marawi, sir.
Okay. But principally, that was the anchorage for the declaration of martial law.
One of them, sir.
That was the principal anchorage. Now, you said that there are remnants of the terrorist groups. But these remnants are quixotic residues, unable to revive a vanquished rebellion or launch a new one. May we know what is the total number of these so-called remnants?
May I refer you to the Armed Forces Chief of Staff or the Secretary of National Defense?
Your Honor, sir, based on the current our PSR, sir, the number of the ASG at this point is numbers about 424 with 254 firearms. The BIFF 264 with 254 firearms. Dawla Islamia 111 with 91 firearms, and the Communist Terrorist Group 1,636, or a total of 2,435, Your Honor.
And what are the basis for those figures?
It's the deliberation, Your Honor, by the Joint Intelligence Community, Your Honor.
May we be furnished copies of those data?
Yes, Your Honor.
When do we expect to get those data?
We will provide it immediately, Your Honor.
Thank you. How much is appropriated in the 2019 proposed national budget for a one-year extension of martial law and the suspension of the writ in Mindanao?
None, Your Honor.
From January 1, 2018, up to today, December 12, 2018, how many arrests have been made in Mindanao related to the extension of martial law?
Uh, 140, Your Honor.
140.
143, correct.
143. And for what crimes or offenses were the arrests made?
Rebellion and other crimes, Your Honor.
May we know how many of those arrested are charged in court with rebellion?
Hindi, yung charge, yung rebellion. Hindi, yung anong charges. Sabi ko, hindi yung charge with rebellion lang. Sabi ko lang, we'll provide the data. Rebellion lahat yun.
I hope
Everyone, all 143, Your Honor.
now,
Charged with rebellion.
can we get a submission under oath
Yes, Your Honor.
of the 143 arrested persons who are now charged in court with rebellion, and in what courts are they pending, and the status of said cases?
Yes, Your Honor.
It should be under oath, Mr. President, Madam Speaker. And when do we get that statement under oath?
As soon as possible, Your Honor.
What is as soon as possible?
Tomorrow, Your Honor.
Tomorrow. What was the growth rate in Mindanao as of the first quarter of 2018, starting from January 1, 2018?
Sir, for 2018, sir, I was informed the data of the NEDA has not yet been, this will be released by April of next year. What we have is the data of 2017.
No.
For Davao region,
Excuse me, I am not asking for 2017. I am asking for 2018, which is the coverage of the extension.
yes, sir. We have not yet been given by the National Economic Development Authority on the data for 2018, Your Honor.
Okay. What is this growth rate in Mindanao as of the fourth quarter, starting from October 1, 2018, up to the present? I think the same answer. That does not furnish you the data. Yes. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. What was the inflation rate in Mindanao as of the first quarter of 2018, starting from January 1, 2018?
We have no data, Your Honor.
Okay. What is the inflation rate in Mindanao as of the fourth quarter, starting from October 1, 2018, up to the present?
We have no data, Your Honor.
What was the poverty incidence in Mindanao as of the first quarter of 2018, starting from January 1, 2018?
We have no data, Your Honor.
What is the poverty incidence in Mindanao as of the fourth quarter, starting from October 1, 2018, up to the present?
We have no data, Your Honor.
I am asking these questions, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, Mr. President, because there has been this repeated claim that martial law contributed to the development and growth in Mindanao. But how can this be validated when there is no empirical data on which this claim can be anchored?